Hello, you're very welcome to another one of my videos. In our last video, you might remember, I spoke about the work of genius that was the railway signal, a means of communicating with a driver in the train using the signal and the lights of the signal so he could see it day and night. Today now, I want to talk about more geniuses. I want to talk about the people that created the railways. And I want to go back way before the signal, back to the very start, back to the green field. I want to refer in particular to the hundreds and hundreds of people that did all the work on the line, and I'm going to soon show you some of the items they used and how they worked. But before I do that, I have to acknowledge the wonderful engineers, the draftsmen, the architects, the people that helped them, that came along and surveyed, the surveyors. Like, there was no helicopters, there was no drones, this all had to be done at ground level. And maybe vantage could be taken from high ground. But first of all, they had to acquire the land. That meant negotiating with landowners. And some landowners were delighted, some weren't. But agreement was found and they set about their plans. And of course, you can visualize now big groups of men, well-dressed men, educated men, engineers. And we were very lucky in Ireland that we had people like William Dargan. William Dargan was one of the top railway engineers in Ireland, who served his time under McNeill in England. And don't forget, I said earlier that in England, the railways were an outstanding success. And business people and merchants and solicitors, they were all welcoming the railway, because especially if they had businesses in the UK and England, they wanted now to have the same facilities in Ireland. So you can visualize now green fields, hills, quarries, rivers, lakes. They all had to be negotiated. And we, as I said, we were lucky to have people like William Dargan. When William Dargan was at the height of his career, he had 1,500 men and almost up to 2,000 men working for him. And this is where I want to pay the first tribute. I can talk about the engineers, I can talk about the architects, the surveyors, but I want to talk about the 1,500 men. And the first man I want to talk about is the navvy. We all heard about the navvy shovel, and we heard about the navvies in the UK. The navvy was a man that worked very, very hard. And where he got his name was, navvy is short for navigation, because the first time navvies worked in big scale jobs was in the creating of the canals. And a navvy, using a shovel like this, after about 12 months, he was actually expected and able to move 20 ton of stone or 20 ton of earth a day with the use of the navvy shovel. He's made short so that you could have a lot of people working in close proximity and they wouldn't be interfering with each other. So the first man we have to acknowledge is the navvy. The man did all the digging. And of course, the men with the pickaxes that brought down the stone, that took away the earth, that made the ground firm. And when the ground was made firm, what they called the permanent way, when the ground was made firm, the first thing that happened was they put in the ballast. And the ballast is the stone that goes in under the sleepers. And that went in under the sleepers. And I have a good example here. You have the sleepers and you have the chairs. The track is inside here, and you've things then called keys that keep the track in place. So I want to acknowledge the wonderful men, the navvies, the men with the pickaxes, the men cutting the bushes, the men doing the fencing, the men that put up, because don't forget, all the landowners, their land had to be made safe. Their animals couldn't be allowed to ramble onto the tracks. So not alone were you putting down the two tracks, you had to put down all the signal, the fencing, the gates, and we've all seen the gates. A penalty of 40 shillings if you leave this gate open. So the next thing I want to do is very briefly show you something about the track. And what I have here is, it's a small wheel, and the wheel shows, you can see here, this is called the flange, and this fits on the track. just like the green wheels there. And if I had it could now, I'd like to show you something very special. This is a gauge. It's a gauge that's made, and it was actually made, it was written on it, in 1858. 1858. And this sets the gauge of the track. And that's what created the gauge, which is the width of the two tracks that took the wheels. And here now, very briefly, I want to show you two beautiful pieces. These were belonged to engineers. The gap from here to here is 5'3", which is the exact gap that's between the tracks to take the wheels. Now, you can see here, it's beautifully made and it can be leveled. And there's another one here then that creates a camber. In other words, on a bend, one track is slightly higher than the other. And that's that one. So I'm not going to wear you out. I want to acknowledge the wonderful men that created the line, the Permanent Way. And don't forget, the Permanent Way gets its name because when they were laying the track, they had a temporary way to serve, to draw away the stone, to draw in the stone, to draw away the earth, to draw away all the old the trees that had been cut down. And when they finally laid the track, it was called the Permanent Way. So I want to honour all those people. There's a lot of people going to see this video now, and maybe they have railway connections. And I just hold and say, we are very proud of our railway connections. I want to say thanks to all these people that walked on the line, and I want to say thanks to you for watching. Thanks very much.